5th, 2023. This is our last meeting before we wrap up for the summer and meet again in September. I'll read the land acknowledgement. The city of Thorold is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in rich history. The First Nations, such as the Hattawinarok and the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the First Credit Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The city of Thorold stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting and wise stewardship of the lands in which we live. Are there any declarations of interest? I see none. Can I get we're going to adopt the agenda. Can I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda? I have Rich and Tony. Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Okay. So the adoption of the minutes. We have the 5.1. We have PTRC 4-2023 from Monday, May 1st, 2023, and 5.2 PTRC 5-2023 from Friday, May 5th, 2023. Can I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the minutes from May 1st and May 5th? Jeff and Robert. Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. We have some correspondence. 6.1, we have PTRC C-2-2023, the Active Transportation Subcommittee Resolution respecting additional budget. So, the Active Transportation Committee is a subcommittee of the Parks, Trails, and Recreational Advisory Committee. During the previous meeting, they made a following resolution outlined in memo PTRC C-2-2023. Whereas, the Active Transportation Subcommittee, along with Heart Niagara, is conducting bike safety training in approximately 250 grade 4 and 5 students. Therefore, the Active Transportation Subcommittee motions that additional funding be allocated to the Active Transportation Subcommittee to support the initiative up to $500. So can I get a mover and a seconder to receive correspondence from item PTRC C-2023? I have Tony and Councillor Sentence. So all those in favor? Opposed? 0. And carried. So, any discussion on the motion from the Active Transportation Subcommittee? Is there any questions or anything we would like to discuss? So, a motion will need to be made to recommend the resolution of the Active Transportation Subcommittee to proceed to council. I have Joe. Do you have a question, Joe, or are you motioning?
I'll move it.
Move it? Okay, do I have a seconder? Jeff. I just had one sort of comment. The only thing it says here is that it doesn't say whether it's Niagara District Catholic School Board or the Niagara District School Board. So, Sydney.
Through you, Mr. Chair,
Both?
I believe it is both school boards. I believe
Perfect.
it's taking place at all Thorold schools. One additional comment to it, in their original motion, they have 250 students, and we're asking for $500. However, since then, they're now up to 400 students, which is why they would need up to $2,000, which is why the recommendation for staff, or what the motion would be, if the committee is in agreement with passing this, would be that the Parks, Trails, and Recreation Advisory Committee recommend the bike rodeo event for council approval, and that council approve the budget overrun of $2,000, and that the chief administrative officer be requested to approve the emergency budget to accommodate the override.
Okay, so is that in addition to the 500 that was on our?
It would be all together.
Okay. I knew it was a Catholic school because I saw it on my daughter's calendar this coming up. So, okay. So I guess all those in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. So it will be presented to council. Okay, we do have a presentation for the maintenance. 7.1 is maintenance of McMillan Park. We have Paul Martel, resident. I don't see him present, but I'm sure. Okay, so he's not here. We are going to proceed to 8.1. This is the website working group. So I'm going to turn this over to Ian. Ian's not present. I'm going to turn this to Jeff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So with regard to our working group, whose goal is to improve the website content, specifically as it pertains to the web page parks, trails, and sports fields, and the related internal links from that page forward. I'm here to report that work is well underway and we're making progress. And in fact, we've already uncovered some broken links and some rather straightforward fixes. And we didn't see much sense in holding those back until the release of our September report. If there are some straightforward fixes to be made, as you'll see in the one-pager in the agenda package, there's a one-pager there with these quick fixes. It made sense to reach out to city staff and see if in fact they can implement some of these easy changes over the summer rather than waiting till late in the year at the earliest. So that's what we're asking committee, in fact, to tonight to formally request city staff to address these quick fixes over the summertime. And in fact, we've already received some positive response from city staff. I want to thank Stephanie Jarvis in particular. She made it clear that what we're asking is probably quite doable over the summer. So that was encouraging as well. And time passes quickly, and this is our only meeting. So rather than walk you through the line-by-line quick fixes, feel free to contact Ian or myself over the summer with any questions or concerns you have on these quick fixes, or in fact maybe other feedback that you have. We welcome committee feedback on website content, especially for the next month or two so that it can inform our work. And as I said, in September, which may be our next meeting, we'll have a final report with recommendations to share. Okay, so as I said, the ask for tonight is to formally request that staff with the city work on the one-pager of quick fixes. Thank you.
Thanks. I just have one comment to add. Sydney, you may be able to answer this question. Are we allowed to discuss items for committees through emails without sort of meetings or things being held, or do we have to host special or call special meetings for anything that would be done during the summer?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we wouldn't be able to do it over email because that would be considered having a meeting in closed session, and the Municipal Act says all meetings have to be in open. So if you wanted to do anything that would progress business, it would have to be through a special meeting.
Okay. So, but what they're doing is fine to do throughout the summer months. Okay. And also, Jeff, if there's anything that comes up during the meet, like we could always call special meetings to say, hey, we found this and like, let's move on this quickly if we have to.
Thank you. Good to know. I mean, I honestly, we could have come up with 20 or 30 quick fixes, but we, first of all, don't want to unduly tax the staff's capacity over the summer, especially. And like I said, I'll be reluctant to reach out to the committee over the summer, but it could happen. You're right. Thank you.
Thanks. Is there any questions from the committee? I see, Joe, you have your hand up.
Yeah, over the years, I've seen not a lot of cluttered websites. I would not put ours in that category. I'd much rather have way too much stuff and have to start paring it back in September. Just my personal opinion.
Could I respond?
Thanks. Yes, go ahead, Jeff.
I think I understood you, Joe, but I want to make sure you're making the very good case for less clutter, less information is better, correct?
No, actually, what I'm saying is that currently, there's not enough stuff on there.
Okay,
I would rather, and I don't really expect, you're a pro, so I don't really expect this to happen, but I would much rather have to start complaining in September or October that it was cluttered than the way it is right now.
gotcha. Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Okay. Do I have any further questions? Sydney, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair. As a working group, you are able to work throughout the summer, and things like these minor changes, I've confirmed with Megan, who's our communication staff. She's more than happy to make these changes. The only time it would have to go through the committee is if there is a large change, such as you're asking to build out another tab on the website or something like that. But these minor fixes, you're more than welcome to send along to me or Megan, and then they can get them done without having to meet.
Thanks. Any further questions? I'll move right along. Okay, so I was asked by Stephanie to provide some items for agenda. I was coming up with a few ideas thinking about it, but so into 8.2, new parks in Thorold. I'm not sure everyone in our committee or group is aware. There's five, I believe, 5 new parks going in the Port Robinson, Cottonmire, Port Robinson West area. There's the one that's, I believe, slated to be finished in September, which is the Merritt Meadows Park. So I was just reading some stuff on articles in Thorold today, and we noticed that there's, it's a $400,000 park, which originally was budgeted at $250,000. So they do have 4 more of these parks all going up in the same area. I was just maybe requesting that we can see the concept designs or what they're putting into these parks, and if all these parks are going to be equipped with washrooms, and if the washrooms are going to be open to the public. Because we do have washrooms, we have park facilities. I say at Thorold Downtown Park, they have the washrooms, but they're never open. I know the one in Port Robinson, they had some issues back and forth with the washrooms not being open. Sullivan Park, they have washrooms, but they're only open during baseball games. Is there any way we can sort of ask council of why these bathrooms aren't really open to the public when somebody sort of starts their shifts, finish their shifts, and why they're only open during ball games or when the Reed Band or the market or there's an event going on at Beaver Dams Park? Or if there's somebody online that can, I see Councilor Sensen, you have your hand up.
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Mhm.
Okay, so the idea is to have them open. I'm not there all the time, so I don't know, because there's a splash pad there at Sullivan, for instance. That should be open most of the time and then closed at night. The main thing is vandalism, right? Not leaving them open too long or leaving them unattended. We always seem to get vandalism. So that's really the only reason I've been given. Maybe, if we're short of people for staffing that day, but they should be open. I don't know if all the new parks are going to have washrooms, but there is a standard park design that we developed, but I'm not sure about the washroom part. So I will bring it up again to have the washrooms open. They should be open, but South Confed is just vandalized all the time. So it's kind of a catch-22 for us.
Okay. Yeah, I was at the Beaver Dams Park. I go there with my kids fairly often, and my parents live across the street, so I can go across the street and use the washroom as I need or as the kids need. So, but not everybody has that sort of, I guess, luxury or
no.
or
Freddie Matheson used to get me every week on that one, and I'm not sure about that one. But I will look into it.
Yeah, I'm hearing it from other parents and people too. Of I go to the washroom, I bring the kids, we bring a snack, we bring drinks. We're there for a couple hours, and then we just have to pack up and leave in a half an hour because little Jimmy didn't go to the bathroom before he left. Yeah, sort of thing.
They're not wrong. I'll look into it.
Okay, thank you. And that was sort of the go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, some of these parks that are going in are community parks. They just have a playground and maybe some places to sit down. The community parks don't usually have washrooms. It's usually only the ones with other amenities such as splash pads or sports facilities.
Okay. One other question I did have with Beaver Dams Park, I don't know, Councillor Sons, if you could answer this, but with the new park, I mean, like I said, we go there fairly often. We used to have a swing set, and we don't currently have regular swings at that park. I mean, there's the wheelchair facility swing, there's other facility swings, but we had a regular swing set there, and now there's not a regular swing set. I'm not sure if you could bring that up.
I'll find that out as well.
Okay. Like, I mean, because like the kids, and then all the kids are just playing on the wheelchair, the accessible, swing sets, and then if someone comes to use it, they're not even available for them anyway. So it's kind of one of these things that we took away something that was already there, and maybe just missed it, I guess, on that one. But anyways.
Okay.
Thanks. I'm going to move on to, is there any further questions with the parks regarding like any of the new parks? Does anyone want to see or be a part of, or do we have an opportunity to be a part of those parks and their design or their reviewing through you, Miss Hanson?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm not aware of any subcommittees or working groups in the design concept right now. Maybe Dave or Jacob might know a little bit more about how the parks are going to be designed.
Okay. Jacob, Dave, comments?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you through you, Mr. Chair. We are offering a PIC that should be coming out at the end of this month. We'll deal with some questions regarding what the residents would like to see in their parks. So just to clarify, 2 of the parks are complete. Hansler Heights is complete, and Merritt Meadows will be doing a ribbon cutting shortly. I think there's another application of hydro seeding that needs to be completed at Merritt Meadows Playground. And then the other 3 that are coming will be designed in the next couple of phases of the Port Robinson West community. So to answer the question, there will be a PIC held towards the end of this month, and everyone is welcome to come out and view the concept drawings and have their 2 cents.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so is there any further questions with this, or can we move on to the next item? So the next item on the list is, again, Canada Games Park. It's the outdoor running track. I've had people sort of approach me asking me about, the turf field, the synthetic turf field that they thought they were going to get at McMillan Park, but it didn't go through. And then there was other people asking, there was plans in development prior to Canada Games that there was going to be a facility put out at Rolling Meadows that didn't go through because of Canada Games Park, but yet we still never got that synthetic turf field. One recommendation that I received was having the optimization of the track and field area to include a soccer field in the middle of the running track, but as I drove by tonight, I really wanted to go check this out in depth. There's people doing hammer throws, there's discus, there's javelin, there's shot put. I don't think all these sports can handle, you can't put those on a synthetic field that's used for turf. So, but if you go around the back of Brock, they do have their own synthetic soccer fields. There's 2 of them behind where the pool is. Now, is there any way that a trade-off of some sort, that if the Thorold Soccer was able to sort of coordinate with Brock to have them utilize their facilities, and then that might sort of, for the time being, make everybody happy? For you, Miss Hanson.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I believe Dave might have more information on that one.
Sorry, or Dave, I'm not sure who the, I guess that would be for you, Dave.
Yeah, sure. Through you, Mr. Chair. We currently have CE Gross, which hosts a large spectrum of users from ages U3 up to a men's league, currently at Seagross. We've painted fields out at Rolling Meadows with nets. There's a lot of practices held out there. So to answer your question, the opportunity is there to potentially share with Brock University, well, with Canada Games facility, I should call it. If that's something the minor soccer or adult soccer would like to see, we can definitely look into those options.
Okay. Because I'm at the soccer field pretty well, not all the time, but a couple days a week. And I mean, it gets confusing for some of the kids. They're out there and you have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different fields on one pitch, and there's kind of lines everywhere. Anyways, what the question would be was sort of, because the middle of the running track wouldn't be the best place to put a soccer field after, seeing what other sports go on there. But they do have the synthetic fields in the back. And I think what the question was coming from the community was having the synthetic field for use for the city of Thorold, or for either, I guess the school boards were kind of looking into it as well. But if there's any way we can sort of connect with Brock, see if the fields are available for the school boards or for, the men's soccer league or whatnot.
Yeah, the only issue with having the school boards is busing the kids to and from the field.
Okay. Is there any other questions with that, or no? Anyone online? I don't see any questions. Okay, we'll move on. The Thorold Pool, 8.4 Thorold Pool. So council did approve the early opening of the pool on, I believe it was last council meeting on Tuesday. I did read about it. It was in some of the papers. It was in the Standard. No mention to the committee putting it forward, but still, it's still approved. Is there, again, I'm going to ask about the school boards, extending swimming through either the fall or early in the spring, starting June 1st, and possibly entertaining the school boards. I mean, Richmond Street School is right next door. If we can do something regarding, swimming lessons or field trips or phys ed classes, so we could utilize that pool a little bit better through the month of June or through the month of September.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, I can answer that. One of our biggest challenges with that is
Liability.
our lifeguard staff are higher students as well.
Mm-hmm.
So potentially the university students go back either to Brock University or go back to their schools away from home. So we lose a lot of that component with the hired lifeguards for the summer season. Opening early, this is probably one of the earliest seasons we've opened, or earliest times we've opened. So it was just a matter of getting some of the lifeguards in earlier. So we're going to have some modified hours, modified slide operating hours. So the possibility is there. It's never a no. It's just, can we get the staff? Can we get the university students and our lifeguards on board as the committee here would like?
Yeah, understood. So, I mean, September is probably a little bit more difficult than, say, June, because I believe universities and colleges wrap up in end of April. So you have May, you have June. Possibly, maybe it's just a further heads up for people looking for additional work as the lifeguards prior to the season starting. But I guess it would also have something to do with liabilities, I guess, for swimming and with the schools and with the city, and who's liable and who's not. But
yeah, a lot of our deck supervisors, through you, Mr. Chair, a lot of our deck supervisors and supervisors in general are university students. A lot of our lifeguards are high school students. So the government just changed the effective date for lifeguards. So now they just the minimum age is 15 years old. So a lot of our deck lifeguards are in high school still.
Okay. I guess that might be something we can look further into in September once, you know, we get an idea of how it was received this early in June.
Yes.
Okay. I guess that kind of goes in part with like closing dates for parks, baseball diamonds, and soccer fields. Do we have, like, because I know we talked last week about closing dates for the pool, and then and that's how sort of we got into the discussion of opening early. Do we have like a list of, through you, Sydney, to Dave, a list of like when do the parks close? Like C. Gross and Sullivan Park and McMillan Park, do they all close at the same time as with school starting, or do they extend their hours or their time?
Yeah. Through you, Mr. Chair. So everything is modified due to the successfulness of the user groups, like Thorold Anchors. They play right until October. Minor soccer is usually done mid-August, beginning of August. Minor baseball will go right till the end of September, first week of October. As soon as the Anchors are done hosting the OBAs, we convert McMillan Field to a football field. So those staff requirements are done with our casual staff. They're not returning to school, so this is their full-time job.
Okay, so that answers that. 8.6, advertisements at facilities. So Marcia had brought something to my attention earlier in the month, and the city of Welland does a pretty good job of, they've had, I believe it was a third-party company come in and do some advertising for them and sort of sell advertising at their sports facilities, whether it's a logo of a local community business on the ice at the arena, or it's boards, like plywood boards that are against the back wall or the back fence at McMillan Park. There's different ways of looking at it. I just kind of leave the floor open to what any suggestions, thoughts of that, like that. I mean, there's possibility of, you know, promoting your local businesses. There's possibility of like further income that can be put directly towards either the baseball, Thorold baseball, or Thorold soccer, or Thorold hockey, just based on the advertisement. I feel like we might be missing something, and Marcia had a great point with it, but unfortunately she's not here today to speak on it. I'll leave the floor open if anyone has any other suggestions, thoughts, questions. Tony.
The city used to sell advertising boards at the arena, and the revenue was shared with, I'm not sure if it was the TAAA or the Blackhawks. I'm not exact. I don't remember exactly. This was a little while ago. They ran into some problems with who was getting the money, and like there was just but some of it stayed anyways. But when they redid the arena, I believe that all disappeared. Dave could probably tell you better than I can, but
Yeah,
it never
through you,
seems to have
Mr.
been
Chair.
brought
Thank you,
up
Tony.
again.
I'm not an expert on how the advertising used to work. I know Jacob was very proficient, and I'd like to introduce Jacob Tedesco. He's the acting supervisor for Parks and Cemetery. Jacob, welcome to the committee meeting tonight. Jacob has done a few years in the arena. I'm not sure if Jacob has some more information about the advertising or how the board advertising worked. Jacob?
Thank you, Dave. Through you, Mr. Chair. I believe it was previously the Blackhawks that took a share of the revenue with the junior B team of the advertising at the boards. And I believe the contract had expired sometime during COVID, and it was chose not to be renewed at that time just due to lack of people in the arena, like the facility being shut throughout COVID.
Does this sound like something maybe we could or should put back into the community? I mean, you're giving an opportunity for local businesses to get their names back out there, and there's a variety of new and different ways that we can achieve it rather than just the arena. We have soccer fields that I know there's 150 U8 kids there on a Tuesday night. So, I mean, if you had some advertising on the fences or something, it's just a sheet of plywood, and you could sell it to local businesses. I know we have quite a few downtown Thorold that I'm sure would possibly sign up for something. It's just, how do we get that to council for you, Ms. Hanson?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would recommend someone make a motion that it goes for council and that staff look into making a report on the feasibility of advertising and all that stuff.
Tony.
Yes, I'd like to recommend that Thorold City Council direct staff to investigate the possibilities of advertising in the arenas and sports fields in Thorold.
Would anyone like to add to the motion provided by Tony? Joe.
Yeah, I've always been a general proponent of advertising or even selling naming rights when you get right down to it for certain things. So I would definitely like to second Tony's proposal.
Thank you. So I guess we'll vote. All in favor? Oppose? And that is carried. Okay. 8.7. So myself, this is something dear to me because as a kid of skateboarding, we had that skate park that was in Thorold. It's in McAdam Park. It's seen its day. It's 20 plus years old at this point. Maybe not the best spot for a skate park. It's 24 years old. The date myself, I broke my elbow there when it first opened. So that's going back at 24. I was still a teenager at that point. Needless to say, I don't know if it's due for an upgrade but I mean, when the kids and I, when we go to a skate park, Thorold, sadly is not on the list when the kids say we want to go to the skate park. We still have to get in our car to drive to go to the skate park. So they don't want to go to Thorold South. They want to go to Niagara Falls. They want to go to the 4-pad. They want to go, sometimes they want to go to Beamsville because they have one of these pump tracks, which is something, I'm not sure if everyone's really aware what it is, but it's one of these momentum driving tracks for scooters, for glider bikes, for BMX biking, mountain bike, any age level of degree. So I did a bit of research myself, and there's 3 different kinds. There's modular ones that are fiberglass. There's asphalt, obviously, and there's precast concrete segments that you can buy. The town of Innisfil did a pilot project where they purchased the modular components for the pump track, and it was the size of a tennis court. So they were doing it as interest, and what they did was they moved it from park to park on a weekly to monthly basis to gain the interest of the community to see what kids liked it, what kids didn't. I do have some preliminary numbers from what I said. The modular one was $60,000 with a $3,000 a year sort of maintenance fee, all the way up to $250,000 for sort of a steady in place concrete one. I think they're fantastic myself, but I'll leave the floor open if anyone has seen them, comments on it, questions. Tony.
Yeah, there is a gentleman here in Thorold, I believe he still lives at Thorold, who was pushing pump tracks a while back.
Okay.
probably 10 or 15 years ago. He was just talking about one where they just grade the ground. Basically, the whole idea is that these things have to be engineered because it's a series of hills, and they have to be engineered so that your momentum coming down the one side plus standing up and using increasing the momentum that way is supposed to get you over the top of the next one. The whole concept is that you don't pedal, you use your body to move you forward. I guess the modular one sounds okay, but I'm just curious because it has to be so exact as to one, the rise in relation to each other. If you put them in different parks, if you would always be able to get the right.
So the modular ones are meant to be put on a hard surface. So you would put it up, say if you had it at, let's use Confederation Heights, for example, they'd put it on the tennis track. If you had it at Beaver Dams Park for a 2-week span, it would be in the parking lot. If you had it, it would be on a flat concrete surface, which is pretty well anywhere, and it only covers about the size of a tennis court for a
Port
modular.
Robinson, for instance, doesn't have a park with a big paved area. I don't believe. I think their parking lot is still gravel, if I'm not mistaken.
So that's concerning with a pilot project as they did, but something more, permanent would be, as you were mentioning, an asphalt or a concrete park that would obviously be engineered and designed by a company. So, I don't know, I'm just trying to get anyone's interest on what they think and what they think of, because maybe a skate park or a pump track might be not the highest on the list of people in the committee, but it's obviously, these are the questions I ask people when I'm out in the community, and I pretty well stop and talk to every person I see. So this is up there. So I just want to note it as in our discussion points and then possibly bring it back to the committee in September. So is there any other questions, comments, maybe concerns, thoughts? Yes.
So, Mr. Chair, I'm not so familiar with it, so it's just I'll take away what you shared with us and think about it for September. But a question I have is, I have this preconceived notion that it's something that teenage boys are mostly involved in. Is that too narrow, and it's actually got a bigger following?
Yeah, it's fairly narrow because like my son, there's my son and my daughter, 7 and 10, and they've been scooted. Like they host a scooter, you can have a skateboard, you can have a bike, all the way to the little tiny glider bikes with no pedals for the children. So it's one of these things that obviously driven by a teenage demographic.
Okay.
But anyone, even mountain bikers, people who are out on the trails, this is kind of what they're looking for, is that sort of momentum building track that, once you start it, it's up to you to get off the track. You're not going to stop unless you stop yourself. And it's one of these things you can go around and around and around as many times as you want. And there's different kinds of jumps and contours and curves and corners, and think of an F1 racing track. But you're gaining your momentum and keeping it based on your bike and your momentum.
Thank you for clarifying.
No problem. Okay. The last item on the list is item 8.8. It's Beaver Dams Park fence. Something I noticed walking through the park the other day. At Larkwell Towers, there's holes cut in all the fences so kids can jump through. The bars are bent on the top from them jumping the fence over the top. The building next to Larkwell Towers is all fences caved in from snowplows pushing the snow up against the fence. The old folks home doesn't have access to the park, but yet the building behind the park has an open access gate to the park, and they close the access from the school to the park. So it's kind of a mismatch of every single possibility going around the park, around the perimeter. I would suggest each facility has their own opening so we can, do away with damaging the fence so people don't have to walk around, whether it's an opening in the fence for, the community to access the park from their building, from where they live. Tony.
The gate to the back of the school was west of the school.
So I just have an issue with that because maybe they're seeing it now, but when I drive by there at 2:45 on my way to pick up my kids at the Holy Rosary, all the parents are now waiting on the street. They're waiting in the parking lot. They're waiting at the turn to get in and out where the buses are, instead of before where they were waiting in the park to receive their kids. So to me, it's kind of a safety issue. I think the school needs to reconsider possibly reopening that access, because anyone that goes to that school is going to tell you that they're walkers. Most of the kids that go to that school are walkers, that they're getting picked up on the road. They're getting picked up in a parking lot there's only one entrance into that parking lot, one in and one out, and everyone's just standing there. Eventually something's going to happen where they're going to have to reopen it. But I just wanted to note that and possibly make a motion to council to have them possibly look at providing an opening for each one of the buildings on the perimeter of the park. Oh, Joe, I didn't see you there.
Excuse me, this came up years ago. It's a question as to, okay, you put up a fence. Who are you protecting? The one side, the other side, or both? So I agree with you in principle, but you have to have, you've got liability to the city on the park side, and you've got the seniors. There may be some seniors residents, like residents within the seniors building, who would love to have an opening so they can get in there, but the management may not want access from the park to their property. So there's the conundrum. Now, as I say, I agree with you in principle, but you'd have to have an agreement between, as I say, the city and pretty much everybody, including the school board, as to whether or not they wanted an entrance, and whether or not the entrance was lockable.
Noted.
That's all I've got to say on that.
Thanks, Joe. Tony?
Joe has a valid point. My mother used to live in 43, which is beside the St. Catherine's. What's it called? Well, 43 and 45 are next door to each other. They're both, the 3-story building and the 4. But at 43, they had asked a number of years ago to have that opened up because there were a lot of seniors living there, and they wanted to go listen to the band on Wednesday night, or just go for a walk, through the park. But the owner didn't want it because he didn't want some of the as he put it, less desirable people that hang out in the park to come onto their property.
Okay. My question is, each one of the buildings has a superintendent, I would believe so, and it's possibly you could leave it to the superintendent to have a gate with a lock, and it gets open for the Reed Night Band, so the seniors can make it out of their backyard and into our brand new park that we just built, basically for them, I guess, because they're sitting right there. There's other reasons, but yeah, you want to keep the people out as much as you want to keep the people in, but our fences are getting ruined because people are cutting holes in them and jumping the fences because they don't want to walk around the building or to go to an entrance. So it's kind of both ways. I mean, if you walk through the park, you go to Larkone Towers, and it's somebody just clips out, and it's a hole in the fence, and they jump through the fence, and there's the other one that's got a bent bar on the top from the kids jumping over the fence to get into the park because they don't want to walk around. And honestly, the people who utilize that park are mainly the people who surround the park, the people in that neighborhood, part of that community. So for myself, I mean, I would like to see an opening at each one of the buildings, if possible. Obviously, discussing with the safety liabilities with Prince of Wales School, but the way I see it is, I mean, I'm sure they're noticing it now that there's kids are getting picked up in the driveway. They're getting picked up on the side of the road. They're not getting picked up in the park anymore. Likewise, when you drive down Pine Street, there's, you know, they have the new cross there and they have a crossing person, but there's, I don't know, there's probably every single car is parked on the side of that road, and everyone picking up their kids is standing in front of that road. And to me, it's a lot of traffic for such a small area for such a short window of time that eventually something's going to happen. And I mean, I see Joe with your hand up.
Now, I got to say, I would love to go back to a time where we could take the fence down entirely. Not going to happen. Having said, if anybody would second me, I'd like to put a motion that the city just send a letter of some sort to every property owner adjacent to the park, asking whether or not they would like an opening.
That sounds fair to me.
Whether it's something they could secure or not, that's, you know, that could go in it as well. But
Yeah, no, a secured opening can.
yeah, secure opening, total opening, you know, whatever, you know, just ask them a poll. That's all I'm at.
Sure.
A poll. What's it gonna, you know, an hour's worth of staff time and $15 or $20 worth of stamps.
You got it. That's
Just ask them.
I feel like that's something you wouldn't have to contract out. I think we have some capable staff within the parks that could do that work themselves. But I'm gonna Ken, I see you have your hand up there.
Yeah, I'm willing to do what the committee wants to do, but I'm a little leery as to who owns a fence, who does this. School boards aren't always easy to work with, so I think this is a bigger issue, and kids cutting through the seniors' apartments and everything. So absolutely, if you want to look into it, but I think it's a bigger scope than it may appear to be with liability and all that sort of thing too. So I'll go with the committee, but I think it needs a lot more discussion. Thank you.
Okay. So my conversations with Stephanie over the past few weeks, she did know that the city owns majority of the fencing surrounding the park. So we do understand that, but like Joe said, it wouldn't be, it's one of those simple things. You don't ask, you don't get. If you don't ask, your answer's always no if you don't ask. So if it's something as easy as putting a motion forward just to have council ask each one of the buildings if they would like one, and obviously talk to the school board regarding their safety issue of having students being received on the road, obviously that would play into their hand as well. So Joe, I'll second your motion. Is there anyone else? So we don't have a seconder. So Joe's motion, I second. Do we call the vote? Wait, I need a mover. So I would be the mover. I need a seconder on the motion. Can you second your own motion?
No.
No, Joe.
Okay. I moved it. I thought you'd second it.
I've got Jeff. Okay. So I'll call it to a vote. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, 5, 6. Okay, that's passed. Okay, so the next portion of our meeting here is the round table. So is there anything anyone wants to discuss prior to being dismissed for the summer? Crickets. Okay. I think we discussed majority of everything going on. So the next meeting is scheduled for September 1st, 2023. And if there's no further business, I will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.